Welcome to Happily Ever After is just the beginning. Keeping your relationship not just together, but happy, and we mean truly happy, is part art and part science. You've come to the right place. Here's your host, Leslie Dories.
One of the questions I get asked all the time is, what is the key to a successful marriage? And in truth, my answer is pretty simple. And it comes from, I'm always reminded of the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Choose your partner wisely. Choose wisely. And while the answer is relatively simple, the process of finding that right partner is not. And the reason for this? Hormones. Our hormones take control of our brain and often run roughshod over our better judgment. Sexual attraction makes us believe that we're in love, and that often leads us to ignore evidence that the person we are so attracted to, the person that we have great sex with, we think they're our soulmate, is not really a good long-term fit. So what this process really is about isn't finding a life partner, but continuing the species. This whole hormonal process was designed centuries ago to ensure strong offspring, and it didn't much care if the two people liked each other because the chances of one of them dying pretty soon, pretty high. So what do we do with all of this today? David Soto Jr., a health and wellness coach, author, and speaker, is here to help answer that question, and I'm sure a whole lot more. So, David, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And I want to throw in my favorite Indiana Jones quote is from Short Round. And he says, "No time for love, Dr. Jones."
I'm sorry, what?
No time for love, Dr. Jones.
No time for love, Dr. Jones. I love that. Well, yeah, I mean, because we all want this to happen like just add water. We're looking for that instantaneous attraction. And you know, it doesn't often happen, and so I really liked your recent piece called The Difference Between Good Sex and a Good Relationship. And in this piece you say there's a lot of potential for heartache with falling in love with someone before you see the real them. And what did you mean by this?
Well, what I meant is the quote in the article is when the veil of sex and passion is eventually lifted, what is revealed is the real person. And seeing that real person, it could take 2-3 months, 2-3 years, or maybe even longer. But when you realize that the person you are in love with is not the person for you, that's kind of what I'm talking about. There's where the heartache begins, and then you throw in what's going to happen with the relationship, and what should you do, and do you figure it out or try to work it out?
Right, and it's almost like, I mean, the process that I was talking about, it almost as if we're taken over by an out-of-body experience. I mean, the hormones that rush through us, that sexual attraction is so intense. And it actually, I mean, there's a whole neurological stuff that goes along with it. And we actually see things and experience things differently. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but we're talking about this person that we met and how fantastic and wonderful and, wow, aren't they terrific? And our friends have met them too, and they're like going, well, yeah, they're okay, but what are you going on about? Because it's that neurochemical thing that I like to call the time it takes to meet, mate, and procreate. Mm-hmm. And then after that, hopefully, because we now have offspring, we're going to stay together, but that's not necessarily a good foundation for a relationship.
Right. So that's the veil that I talk about. You are looking at your partner through an obstruction, and then you mentioned how your friends don't see it the same way. It's because they're not blinded by that passion veil.
And the time that it takes to start recognizing this person, I mean, we talk about the honeymoon phase, which is kind of the infatuation phase, the falling in love phase, and it kind of is anywhere from, 6 months to maybe 2 years, and that's a really long time to kind of be blinded, isn't it?
Yeah. and I've experienced that 6 month to 2 year time period over and over again for several years.
So, you talk about in the piece that you write, you talk about what happens when the veil falls. And so when the veil falls off, but we're trying to use sex as the foundation, what are some of the other pitfalls in terms of being in a relationship with somebody that we don't really know?
Well, the biggest thing that comes to mind is that it's a waste of time. I feel like the time spent with somebody you realize you're not really fit to be with could be time spent with your real partner in life. And the only thing, if the sex is what's keeping you together, out on a lot of other things in a life partner. So.
Right. I mean, and it's not to say that we shouldn't be physically, sexually attracted to our partner, because I think that's important. But I think what I hear you saying is that that can't be the most important thing.
No, it can't be the most important thing. It can't be it can't be the foundation or what the relationship is based off of. Because when that goes away, and it does go away, it does fade away to some degree in what I think all cases, when that's gone, then the person there that besides the sexual attraction, are you attracted to anything else about that person? Because that's the real person you have to deal with.
Well, and it's almost as if we have it backwards, because I was having a conversation with a client just the other night, and she actually said to me that she doesn't date people, she doesn't start a relationship with anybody that she doesn't feel that spark with. And I get that spark. I mean, I really do. I mean, I had it years ago with somebody who really I should not have been involved with, and there were a lot of other reasons. And luckily, both of us were clear-headed enough to go, okay, yeah, there's this spark here, but let's not go any further, because it would have been dangerous on so many levels, emotionally, not physically dangerous. But so I was talking to my client, and so she's dismissing all of these potential partners because she doesn't feel that initial spark, not understanding that if she takes some time and gets to know them, she might actually feel that spark later as she watches them get passionate about something in their life, and it's like, oh, wow, this person who wasn't necessarily that attractive before, now they're hot. Right.
And she wants the spark to be there, but what if she were to experience the flame, that something, she takes advantage of she wants to take advantage of something that occurs right away. If that spark's not there, but maybe if she waited long enough, there would actually be an entire fire, where somebody is actually, when you get to know a person, there's even more of an attraction, the sexual attraction, and then there's more to it. It's deeper. But yeah, I totally know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, but isn't this sort of like, I mean, everybody's looking for their soulmate, and so it's like, you're not going to find somebody's soul in a month.
No, absolutely not. And that's what happens is for me. I mean, I can say that it's everybody. It happens to everybody, but I know for sure that happens to me. Is that there's a spark. We get in bed. It's great. We're having great sex, and then after a while, I find that I'm with a person that I kind of don't really care for.
Yeah, and then what do you do?
Right, and then what do you do? So at that, when that happens, what do you do, and then how involved are you? I mean, for me, in one case, our relationship was so public via Facebook that it was hard for me to make the decision to end it. And for some people, they have kids, right? So then that makes it even harder.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that you point that out because, people, I think that we encourage this. I think as a society we actually encourage this short-term, instant relationship without understanding the other dynamics. And I can't remember, I was at a conference and I can't remember who I was listening to, but they were actually showing a diagram about how, and this is generally speaking, this not for every single individual, but that women tend to become more emotionally involved or invested in a relationship faster than men do. And when sex is involved, that actually happens faster because, somebody's having sex with me, we're bonding. One of the things that happens when we have sex is oxytocin is released, which actually is a bonding hormone. And so now I'm become invested and connected to this person because we're having this physical relationship. But in reality, we're not well matched. And when that comes up, we just keep going back to the sex.
Right. That's the veil. But the sex is good, or the sex so it kind of obstructs your view. You don't really see the real person. And then if you come back to the sex, then you're putting the veil back up or back down. I don't know which the case is. But I have to agree with you because I've been in a relationship where we've established the woman I was seeing in myself that this is going to be a physical relationship. Let's just put it all out there, and let's just take advantage of this. We're grown, consenting adults. Let's have a physical relationship. Mm-hmm. But in many cases, the woman that I was having this relationship with would develop feelings. And this is one of the potential for heartache that I talked about. This is the one-sided love is what I call it. Like you have what's supposed to be just a physical relationship, but then one of you develops feelings while the other one doesn't.
Right. So it's that whole friends with benefits kind of challenge that, and I don't come at this from a moral perspective, but I come at it from a very pragmatic, practical perspective that it's really hard not to get emotionally involved with somebody that you're physically involved with.
Right, and I have to agree with you. I think especially with women.
Yeah, and by the way, I think this is the way we're designed. I don't think it's any kind of women are weaker or or necessarily more romantic. But I think, when we talk about a lot of this stuff, we don't necessarily understand the physiological, neurological underpinnings that's actually driving this.
Right, and also we don't want to. Obviously, don't want to think that women are weak and because of this, but we also have to think about that how they're programmed from childhood. With the gender roles, being assigned so early, especially with the Prince Charming movies and et cetera.
Right, and then we all have those Prince Charming, kind of things, and I always want to go back in and check, 5-10 years later. It's like, how's it going, guys?
Right.
Because usually in all of these movies, it's all romantic movies. You meet cute, you fall in love, you have all these things, but the movies don't usually last. Not necessarily talk about the length of movies, but the length of time in the movies is usually very short. Usually sometime within that honeymoon period, so we don't necessarily see, wait a minute, this little personality quirk or this little behavior, that's going to cause a little bit of problem down the line, and we don't actually talk about it much.
Yeah, they don't show Prince Charming's drinking problem,
or his anger management issues.
Yeah. They don't put that in the movie.
Right, or Cinderella's codependency stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is Happily Ever After is just the beginning on webtalkradio.net. I'm Leslie Dories, and I'm having a rather unorthodox conversation with health and wellness coach and author David Soto Jr. about the importance of not mistaking great sex for lasting love. And, if you find that you're struggling with this, I invite you to reach out and take advantage of my free, no obligation Break into Love Strategy session. You can reach me at Leslie, Lesli, at foundationscoachingnc.com. That's FOUNDATIONS, coaching, COACHING, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie.com. Or you can reach me at 919-924-0463. And now I want to get back to this conversation because I have a really interesting question for you, David. I know that a lot of people think that, that passion, that passionate fighting and passionate makeup lovemaking and passionate sex, it's all about passion. And how does this kind of skew what people are what actually makes a good relationship? What's the problem with makeup sex?
The problem with makeup sex is that it's so great. That's the problem with it.
Wait a minute. That's a problem?
Yeah, that's the problem because this is my whole situation, right? I meet somebody when I have great sex, and then it kind of fades away, and then we realize we don't kind of like each other, and maybe we get in a fight or we break up. But then we kind of miss that great sex thing, and we overlook the problem, right? We overlook the problem, the reason for our fight, and we jump back in bed, and it's great. Like that's to me, that's putting the veil back in front of our eyes, and it's putting a Band-Aid on I don't even know that phrase. Putting a Band-Aid on a wound instead of actually addressing it, right?
Well, yeah, and I think there's this idea, and you were talking about the Prince Charming and kind of like the whole Disney movie kind of thing, where we're kind of in love with the idea of being in love, but we don't understand how to take being in love into a relationship and making it be something that isn't about just the highs of our fantastic, sex life. It's also about, I once read a quote about, from Joyce Brothers that, it's not just about love, it's also about taking out the trash. It's that there's some really mundane kind of stuff that you have to go through. You can't be on that high all the time.
I think it was Neil Donald Walsh, and he says that there is only one kind of love. And people like to categorize love. There's family love, there's friend love, there's lover love. And soulmate love, but I kind of agree with Neil Donald Walsh to think that there is one kind of love. There is only one kind of love. And the difference is when people say they're in love, it's not that they're in love. It's that they are in lust or they have sexual attraction to that person. And sometimes I feel like the phrase that's common, I think you brought it up to me, is I love you, but I'm not in love with you.
Oh, that phrase makes me crazy every time I hear somebody say it. It's like, no.
Yeah, basically that's them saying they don't want to have sex with you.
Right. Well, right. Or that they or that they don't like the real you because, I will talk with people about, okay, do you actually love the flesh and bone, flawed individual standing in front of you, or do you love who you think they are or who you think they might be if you could just mold them, into the image that you want? And they look at me like, well, what are you talking about? And it's like, because nobody's an ideal. And when we're in love, we only see what we want to see as opposed to necessarily what's there.
Right. I think that opens a whole nother can of worms there with people trying to, thinking that they can mold the person that they see before them into somebody that they can love.
Right, which sort of defeats the entire purpose, but I think that's kind of the point you make in your article about the difference between great sex and a great relationship, that people start out with, we're so physically attracted to each other. Now we're going to try to make ourselves emotionally, intellectually, spiritually attracted to each other, which seems a little backwards.
I definitely think that it's backwards. And after years of trying it that way, I'm starting to believe that it's not going to work.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. But it's interesting because your suggested solution is to not have sex with a quote-unquote stranger. And on some level, it seems like you're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And, I don't think any of us want to go back to the days where in fact, the days never actually existed where, sex doesn't come into this. But what are some ways to not have sex with a stranger?
You probably heard in junior high or elementary school, or after school special is, to wait to have sex before you get to know the person. But I'm not going to go that route. I have an idea, and my idea is just to stop dating.
Okay, wait a minute now. You lost me.
Yeah. I mean, I have been dating for years, and whether it's going to a bar or even going online, none of that works. In all actuality, I think everybody there is looking for a sexual partner, especially at the bars, and you get alcohol involved. Online is an interview process, and people are lying. I don't think that the dating process is really the way to meet somebody. I think people should take up hobbies or interests, things that interest them, things that they love, things that they enjoy doing. They should be performing their God-given talent and gift, and hang around like-minded people. A lot of people, and when they're doing this, they're being themselves, and not only they're being themselves, they're doing things that they love, and they're giving out this positive energy. And it doesn't matter if you're in a painting class, right? And the guy next to you is at painting class, and you're both having this great time, enjoying yourself. And it's a 6-week class or an 8-week class, or maybe it's even several months, and you develop a relationship with that person. Then you know what? If it was up to me, if I were to be able to grant permission to tell people what to do, then go on a date with that person. But don't go on a date to get to know a person. Take a person out on a date that you already know.
That's an interesting perspective, and it's not one, and I don't disagree with it. I'm just trying to figure out how in the real world it would work, because you're online, you're sweeping. Was it sweeping left or sweeping right? I can't remember which way it goes if you like somebody, and and initially, that's based on your impression of this person. Do you find them attractive? Do you find them physically attractive? And right. I agree that when we're out and doing the things that bring us joy and bring us meaning, and that's when we're really showing people who we really are. And, so you're talking about getting to know people. And I love that idea. And I guess the question would be, how do we get other people to recognize this?
I mean, how do we get other people to recognize that they should be doing things that they enjoy, and that's how? Right,
that's how they're going to find that's and I guess maybe maybe what I'm hearing you say is for people to stop looking and just go live life.
Actually, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And as hard as that is, I mean, I've experienced I have a lot of female friends, and they are on a mission, some of them, to get married, to have children, and so they're out there actively pursuing. In the meantime, they're finding jerk guys, kind of like myself or my past me, who are looking to score.
in a word, yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you, for me, that's what I'm going to try and do. Is I'm going to try and get active doing things that I love. That's one reason why I'm writing my novel. That's one reason why I put it out on I publish it. I'm publishing it for free, and I don't know, maybe people will see me doing something that I love and it will be attractive, and maybe somebody will reach out to me. The next best thing is to actually go out and maybe join a writing club and meet actual people with not necessarily the intent to start a physical or even romantic or relationship, but just to go out there working on yourself, doing things that you love, and in the meantime, you meet other people doing that you have similar interests with, right? I mean, if you go to a bar and meet somebody, the only thing you'll have similar interests. The only thing you'll have an interest similar will be like you're two people that are getting drunk and kind of horny.
Right. And I think you make a really good point about your friends who want a more serious relationship, maybe marriage, a family. And I think that in what you're talking about is going out in their lives with that intention all the time. And this is where I think people make mistakes where, I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's like if you're horny and you just want to hook up and you want to have sex, great, go do it. That's fine. But I'm not sure, and you're talking about, and I agree with you, that that's really not the way to build a relationship. That
Absolutely.
If you want a relationship, then you need to kind of be upfront about that, which is, by the way, scary because you may scare the person off. But then you're saving time. You're going, okay, this person obviously doesn't want the same thing that I want, so better to find that out before we go out and sleep together than 6 months, 2 years, 4 years down the road when I'm trying to convince them to marry me or to or build a family with me, and they're going, yeah, no, I was never on board with that in the first place.
Right. Oh yeah, I've heard, or I haven't experienced, but I've known people who have been waiting for that person to commit to a marriage, and then it never happens. And
right, or they do what we call sliding, not deciding, where they kind of just keep taking the next steps until it becomes inevitable, but it's not, hey, I'm making a choice to do this. It's like, well, we've been living together for 5 years and you've been bugging me, so to get,
Yeah.
Or now we have a child, and so it's kind of like not making clear decisions.
Right, and I absolutely, and I've seen people wait to get married, they're waiting for I'm not just face it, it's usually women. Women are waiting for the guy to propose,
Mm-hmm.
And then he doesn't. And after so long, they get fed up and they break up. And then they meet somebody within a month or so and are engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how happy those people are or how long that it actually the relationship actually lasts. I actually know a couple people who have gone through that. But for me, I really believe that going out, who is it? It's my friend. I keep calling him my friend, but I never met him. Zig Ziglar used to say, if you want to have a lot of friends, go out and be a friend.
Makes sense, yeah.
And you'll have all the friends you want.
Well, and I think that's important. And I think one of the things I want to say before we wrap up is that, and you still need to continue to engage in your passions, engage in the things that you like to do, even after you're part of a relationship or a marriage, because that's what keeps you attractive. That's what keeps both of you interested in each other.
Absolutely. I don't know. It was a movie, and I forget which movie, but it was Robert Duvall was in it. I think it might have been Something to Talk About.
Mm-hmm.
And Julia Roberts is in it, and Robert Duvall's her dad, and there's another woman. Another woman is her mother, and the mother is fighting with the dad, Robert Duvall, or something. Mm-hmm. But he shows up in his horse riding uniform, right? And
mm-hmm.
These are women. This is a couple that are maybe late 60s, 70s, and she sees him on top of this horse in this uniform, and she is instantly like physically attracted.
Yeah,
like
she
any
melts.
Father's
Yeah,
Day.
she melts.
Yeah. And that's, I know it's fiction, I know it's not real, but that's an example of when the attraction that you have when you see somebody doing, their gift or their talent, and absolutely keep doing that. And that's why you see people like, I don't know, like Stephen King is still married to his college sweetheart.
Right.
They met in writing. They met in a writing, not class, but a writing workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both doing their practice. They're both writers. They're both doing their passion. They've been together for maybe 40 years or something.
Yeah, and that really is what makes it work. So, David, we've been talking about your upcoming book. We've been talking about your website and your blog post. So tell people where they can follow you and find out more about this philosophy that you have.
I'm on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is Primitive Dave. My Instagram, I post a lot of pictures. It used to be a lot of pictures of food, but I'm kind of evolving. I got pictures of my travels. I'm on the road 24/7. I'm traveling indefinitely with my dog. You can find that on Instagram, but that's The Primitive Dave, not just Primitive Dave, but The Primitive Dave. And then my website is theprimitiveU.com. So if you go to The Primitive You, you can see all these articles that I'm talking about.
Right.
And this morning I was really working on some really, to me, eye-opening stuff. And when I started this, I thought I would give people health and wellness advice. So I was telling people what to do. But now it's more of me sharing what I'm going through. And I just got a comment today. Somebody said that they appreciate me sharing. I'm being vulnerable. I'm telling my flaws. I'm putting it all out there and how I'm learning as I'm going. And it's actually helping people, and I'm getting responses. So that website is theprimitiveU.com.
And that's Primitive YOU, theprimitiveYOU.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Terrific. And so, guys, great sex is wonderful. But having it as the foundation for a relationship, as you're hearing maybe today, it won't work in the long run. And confusing attraction with compatibility has been the downfall of many relationships and marriages. If the sexual spark fades, that means the relationship will fade if you've built your relationship around sex. And loving your partner for who they really are and being loved for your true self in return really is the key to a lasting, successful relationship. So until next time, stay loving.